Nolan, since the last time you've been on the show, have you at all seen the lies that Dave Meltzer's been caught in? Like, he got worked by a Twitter post with a fake graphic about Backlash being in Tokyo Dome.
My God, yeah.
Dude, yeah, I still have it bookmarked. Like, Backlash will be at the Tokyo Dome. 9 minutes later, he goes, Backlash tweet was apparently a fake. And it was by this account, Westel Votes. Read that, dude. Westel Votes. He got worked, bro. He reported it. Bro, he's a clown. And then
the Dutch Mantel stuff was absolutely disgusting.
Right. So I had Travis Heckel on as well, and he gave some insight on the Jim Cornette aspect of it, because Jim Stacy, the queen, of course, listens to PWT podcast. Yeah, her and Jim donated the most, and he's like the most prominent names where, and then it's not even about that either. It's just like bringing his wife into it. Travis agreed. I agreed. Like, bring my woman into this. What the fuck is wrong with you, bro? You know, especially if she's dying, like, is what is going on with Dutch, you know? And I'm sorry, I'm brash, but that's how we are at PWT. We bring the straight facts. And so it's just disgusting. And have you been like following any of this? You've obviously heard about the Dutch thing. What are your thoughts on like Meltzer's clear, inherent, just obvious spiral into obscurity and dumb? And we got even more, dude. We got him coping over cable and blah, blah, blah. We're going to get into right away. But Nolan, man, since the last time I've seen you, what do you make of all this?
Yeah, like you said, it is descending and it's spiraling, and it's probably, you know, correlating or proportionate to the amount of people who aren't subscribing to the newsletter anymore. And what I've noticed is that exactly what SRS does, Dave is trying to do. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's a certain amount of design in what he's trying to do in order to try and get engagement, because it's the only way that he can kind of like remain relevant and get people to share him. Because think about it, if he didn't have that, he would have absolutely nothing. And, you know, again, the bias and everything is absolutely clear. It's been clear for some time. And, you know, like you say, it's brainworms, isn't it? It's like,
yeah,
you know,
dude,
that exact moment. Like, I mean, I've seen the exact text of what he said in the Observer, and you can almost see the CTE kick in, like, as the sentence trails off into defending Tony, and Dutch said this about AEW and everything, and I'd be offended if I didn't find it's just sad. Like, it's just a sad old man in a room full of paper trying to remain relevant and defend people that he staked his reputation on, who have subsequently failed him and exposed him for the grift that he's been for the last 40 odd years.
You word things so eloquently. You do, man. I missed you on the show,
especially after a couple of wines.
Yeah, of course. Me too. I've had a few libations. I'm sure you guys can tell. Come on now. All right. It's been a minute since I got lit.
I can tell by the way you've massacred that sentence.
Yeah, exactly, dude. It's been a minute since I got lit on the show. So here we go. Dave Meltzer says basically the narrative that Meltzer's been trying to push is like, well, they went head to head, NXT Dynamite the same night. We chronicled it. It actually happened twice, on a Tuesday one night, and Dynamite started an hour later. And so NXT won the night, and then head-to-head on a Wednesday on Dynamite's own night, NXT beat Dynamite. Dave starts coping and saying, nah, the key demo is the number we look at, not the overall viewership. People dig up his tweets from like 2019 where he's like, the overall viewership matters, not the key demo. So we're just owning him left, right, and center. He's having a meltdown. He's spiraling. He's lying. He's believing Westel votes and all this. And Dynamite was on its own night. NXT was on its own night. NXT beat Dynamite in ratings. So fair shake. No news, no political, can't blame playoffs or whatever. They were both even. NXT won on the CW. And so, you know, this guy, Jaden Stormlight, says, ha ha ha, I knew he was going to proclaim the extra 0.01 as a win for AEW. So in the key demo, AEW had an extra 0.01. So Dave, as we've been chronicling here, he's not just breaking down key demos as like, oh, a 0.17. And then they did a 0.18. He's breaking them down as like 0.175326. Like literally.
I was going to say, how many decimal places is he going into here?
we've covered it. It's down here. We got all this. If it was a high, if it was a high 1.74, then that's good versus a low 1.6. Like, he's literally doing all this Steiner math. He's lost touch with reality entirely. And so a .01 Dave is counting as a victory for Dynamite in the ratings situation. Yeah. Now, if the shoe is on the other foot, he of course wouldn't do that. And so Meltzer goes, it's not a win. Cable charts and network charts are different. Yeah. Just cope, you know? And then this guy's like, it's a win because you ain't stealing many WWE fans, etc. Your thoughts, Paul?
I mean, ridiculous. The thought that I have more than anything is that the stuff that I've been tuning into, despite not having a lot of time to get across all of this stuff, is every time I see him and Brian having an argument, I've got to listen to it. Because one of the best unintended side effects of all of this is that Brian Alvarez is slowly waking up. And I'm wondering how long it's going to be before Brian's just had enough and just ditches him.
He snapped on him recently, dude. We covered it on the show. It was glorious. Yeah. It was glorious.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen sooner or later. Like, I can see Brian having enough and having to go his own way, or, you know, having his own come to Jesus moment, shall we say.
Brian, and by the way, this is, just so y'all know, we started like a match that starts with a brawl on the outside and they got to ring the bell when both people hit the ring. This is Dave Meltzer's dumb moment of the week, yeah.
God, I've missed that flute.
So Meltzer responds, and stealing your boy Phil's saying here. Adji Too Strong says, they still didn't beat NXT, though. And Meltzer responds and goes, silly goose. NXT did great, but .2 on cable is a lot better than .19 on network. What?
Like, so fucking what?
What?
So look at the house, bro. Like, it doesn't make, I don't know. He's just coping. So Triple H's thought says, Dave is hilarious. The shows are bad. Interest is down. Ratings are down. Attendance is down. But sure, AEW getting a new TV deal means this can continue forever. Tony being born a billionaire has a few advantages. Dave glosses over. In the real world, bad TV is bad TV. Based on metrics, successful businesses don't celebrate making $5 in revenue and they spend $10 to make it. Rich people with no limits, private books, and a personal PR man with a platform can try to boost up their hobbies to the fullest, though. And Dave says the interest level is down. It's also a huge financial success. So he's coping because Dave is inventing again. And I've told you all in the PWT universe, do not get gaslit by Dave. The same thing he did with the last TV deal. And then even he at crunch time was like, well, I don't know what's going on, man. It might not go down. And he's doing the same thing. He's saying that by the end of next year, AEW will make $250 million and will be profitable, even if it's by $1. I don't believe that. I think Dave is a
liar. Tell us what you know, you goddamn liar.
He's lying. He's lying.
Lying.
Yeah, you're a liar. Brian. And I think he's talking. And how would he even know that? Why would he even care unless he was owned a bit of the thing? And I don't know, throwing that out there, a little conspiracy. Maybe I'll X-Files that.
X-Files that, mate.
Yeah, your take on that. He is claiming, though, there will be $250 million coming in and AEW will be profitable. I'm hearing Husey came on here and said they're giving Hurt Million $10 million. Hurt Million, I just said. That should be their
Hurt
name.
Million,
Hurt Syndicate $10 million this year alone.
Jesus Christ, man.
Right, that's what he's saying. Like, Benjamin's getting more than he's ever made. Lashley was making 3 point some in WWE, so he's making 3 point, like, more than that, or 4 and more than that. But your thoughts on, like, Dave just claiming again, espousing. He doesn't know that they're going to be profitable. And if he does know, he's bought in the company. How would you even know, bro? That should be illegal. Go ahead. Sorry, Paul.
Inside the trading much?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy to me because what that says to me is that the only way that you can get people into your promotion is by paying them that ridiculous amount of money. It's that simple. Why else would you go there to wrestle on live television in front of nobody?
Yep.
And lower pay-per-view interest, watered down matches, bad creative. Why would you? I mean, I suppose the question really should be flipped on its head. Why wouldn't you go there to have an easy time, work select dates, have a guaranteed payout of how many millions per year? And I can put myself in Triple H's shoes where, you know, you turn around to somebody like Bobby Lashley and it's like, go fill your boots. Like, I'd go and do the same thing. And hey, come and have a conversation with me in 3 years when you're done.
Yeah.
You know, it's as simple as that, really. But on the whole Dave thing, it's just, for me, it's just run and cover. That's all it is just running interference, run and cover. It's classic sort of, you know, what Nerdrotic calls access media behavior. Yep. Do you know what I mean? Of like, well, this is happening. Well, these are the people who we're beholden to. We have to run cover in order to try and justify this after the fact. And it's just pathetic. It's just absolutely pathetic. And it's just really interesting when you contrast that to a lot of the media coverage around WWE and the way they've changed that with, you know, there's fewer leaks, there's the press conferences, they don't let certain people into the press conferences, that kind of thing. You know, the whole sort of reporting around WWE is completely different.
So, Paul Nolan, how much does Jack Perry versus Daniel Garcia for the TNT title interest you?
I think I'd rather just walk straight off my 4th floor balcony.
In Minecraft, folks. Yeah, and that's pretty much what everyone in the building, like, they're just sitting on their thumbs again. It's kind of funny.
Christ.
So Mike Glass tags me in this and says, Pro Wrestle Times, click on the screenshot to see full details. Thank you, Mike Glass. So Meltzer goes, new comment, a network comment from 2019, not a cable comment. So he finally addresses from 2019, Paul Nolan, I told you, where Meltzer said ratings are by viewers, not one demo. I made that clear last night. Back when he was on WWE before AEW. Then AEW comes into the picture. Now the ratings are by demo and not by viewers. And Meltzer goes, network comment from 2019, not a cable comment.
Nonsense.
What do you got to say to that? Yeah, like, I don't know. I'm speechless too, bro. What do you got to say to that?
Do you know what it reminds me of, right? It reminds me of British political discourse. And what I mean by that is when you go into a general election, like we did in the UK back in July with absolutely nobody to vote for, by the way, you know, what happens is that they say, right, well, you're voting for the party, right? But by extension, you're voting for the person who's going to become the prime minister. So when it suits them, it's you've voted for the party. And then when it suits them on the other side, it's, well, you know, you voted for the person to take the office. So it's just very convenient gaslighting, goalpost shifting, whataboutism. It's just toxic, essentially.
And Mike Glass says, do you ever admit you're wrong? And then put the flutes up in a middle finger. So there you go. Guys, we need flute invasions everywhere in everyone's chats, every wrestling channel. Dave Meltzer goes on to say, or I respond to a bunch of Meltzers, so I screen grabbed a few myself. And I write, the only thing more laughable than Meltzer are the goobers he doesn't block. He's the smart guy in a circle jerk of dumb guys. It's disturbing with a flute. And so let's read this. This guy says, it was obvious. That was the point. Dave is acting like Tony is a football savant and the Jags are the worst organization in the league. AEW speaks for itself. Meltzer says, I never said that. Actually, only I said he came from football and, ended up having great success in running wrestling. And the guy who came from running wrestling bombed in football twice. You forget the big debate in 2019 of which would be more financially successful and last longer, XFL or AEW. No, that wasn't a great debate, Dave. That was a great debate among like whatever idiots you're hanging out with. And this guy goes, because how many people were watching TV there? Okay, they're in antenna TVs. Dave says, look up on Google how many homes get CW and then looks it up for TBS and you'll get your answer. It's quite simple. You don't have to ask me. And so Dave is coping over NXT on the CW, getting more viewers than Dynamite on the TBS. The fact that the discussion is NXT and AEW just in general at this point is hilarious.
Well, it speaks for itself, doesn't it?
Yeah. The ratings expert says, like, people don't get this. And this person calls himself unbiased ratings, the ratings expert. And then they're going to with Dave here. And this is what inspired my quote tweet. And they go, like, the people don't get this. They expect them to come in and get 2.5 million viewers a week. Imagine the XFL coming in and staying on par with NFL in the ratings. Nobody expected Dynamite to get 2.5 million viewers or whatever. That's what you dummies expected when Jericho was like, they're going to beat Raw in the ratings and all this Dave and them are talking about. Yeah. No one said that. And I say we because I'm full on Federales Federation over here. No, but for real. WWE shop, link below. I'm just joking, but not really. But nobody said, "Oh, they're going to get 2.5 million." That's Jericho and them, the Demo God. They have whole characters based on this, and that's why Dave switched to the Demo because the Demo God thing. Because Jericho and them are like, "No, we just care about the Demo." So he's like, "Oh, I've been wrong this whole time, Brian." Breaking news: I've been wrong this whole time. Yeah, he goes, "It took the AFL 10 years to get half the NFL ratings."
I can't wait for January when all of this becomes completely irrelevant when WWE moves to Netflix.
Me too. And it's funny too, though, because the AFL things like AEW had half of WWE's ratings, or even closer to what they are at the beginning, and then went down. I believe AFL built it up over time, if I'm not mistaken. So that, like, they didn't start strong. Like, AEW started stronger going downhill. So that's a different thing than the AFL that started weak and then built over a decade, built their fan base or whatever. I don't know. Here's another one. Meltzer responds to this guy who agrees with me. Brian Suttle goes, dumb comparison. AEW is the XFL of wrestling, not the AFL. We all know how that ended. And Meltzer goes, I didn't know the XFL ended up as the second most profitable league in history. Now, AEW, remember, guys, this is what I mean by the gaslighting. AEW's not profitable yet. Dave is saying that by the end of next year, they'll have 250 million and they'll be profitable. But there's no proof that they're the second most profitable. There's no proof that it's just, they'll bring in 250 million. Bro, they spent like 80 million on that video game. I'm sorry to tell people. They spent somewhere between 60 to 80 million on that video game. I want people to know that. That's real. Fact check any other podcast. I'm telling you right now.
They put a wrestler who had no experience in creating video games in charge of that project.
Okay, exactly. You guys, they're spending the talent roster is like 150 million a year.
I wonder what the comparison would be with what WWE are paying.
Well, we've talked about it on the show. Like, okay, what they're paying Monet is probably more than what Monet's whole contract is probably more than what they're paying all of NXT combined.
Probably, I would say.
That's an L. You can't spin it any other. The second most profitable in history. First off, a comparison doesn't have to be apples to apples. It doesn't have to be exactly every step is the exact same way. Right, Dave? So it's not like literal Amelia Bedelia. Every factoid has to be the same.
And the whole thing for me, the whole thing for me here, just to go into this a little bit more, where he says it's notable how much more successful football guy Tony Khan was at doing wrestling compared to the wrestling guy in both attempts at doing football. Again, how unsuccessful is the Jacksonville Jaguars?
They're not.
Terms of they're not. I mean, I don't watch American football. I barely know anything about it. I know this, right? And then I know from my football in England in the Premier League, dude, like Fulham, like his team that he's supposedly the sporting director of and is in charge of player recruitment and everything else, just got pumped 4-1 by the team that were bottom of the table today. And it's that whole thing of like, anything he can do, Dave, to prop Tony up and then take pot shots at somebody else. It's wild to me. It's wild, like the blind spots. I mean, I don't even know whether they're blind spots. They're just willful ignorance at this point. And that's what gets people's back up, and that's what makes people think that he's on the payroll.
Yeah, he's got to be bought in, or it's just that he realizes all that he was shilling. Pardon me. In the 2010s, like he was shilling all that New Japan stuff too, and now these are his guys. So if it doesn't work, he looks like an idiot. But he's just making himself look like an idiot, trying not to look like an idiot. If he just admitted he was an idiot, he wouldn't look like such an idiot. But there you go.
Well, as we say, what is it? If you're in a hole, please do yourself a favor and stop digging. Somebody needs to take the shovel from out of Dave's hand.
So the last one here, at Machiavelli DTA, says, hashtag Dave Meltzer believes there is legitimate beef between Sammy and Tama Tonga. So Dave says they wanted Punk instead of Seth. So Dave, by the way, he knows nothing of what he's talking about right now. He doesn't know a goddamn thing. He goes, they wanted Punk instead of Seth because they wanted to build their rivalry. What? I don't see any other way around it. Punk and Seth don't like each other. Right, but Seth didn't want the spot to begin with. Then Bronson attacked him, so Punk taking that spot doesn't do anything you're talking about, Dave. Doesn't do anything you're talking about. Tama Tonga and Sami Zayn loathe each other. You can tell there's actual heat there. Paul, have you been watching WWE? Is there real heat between Sammy and Tama Tonga? What are we missing?
Jesus Christ. You can tell. Oh, you can tell there's actual beef there. How? Receipts, please, David.
Meltzer goes along. It all comes down to Solo in the end because they're going to want to take advantage of a disgruntled Punk for when Roman does turn on the OG bloodline. Dave's just sitting here fantasy. Oh, yeah, Roman's going to turn on the OG bloodline again, and they're all going to hate each other again. Or do they just agree to go their own ways when this is all done, or they get broken up, or maybe Sammy's the dissenter because he's not really blood? How are you just confidently saying when Roman does this thing that I don't know is going to happen? And Bronson eventually leads a new faction of his own. So Dave is confidently saying that Bronson's going to lead his own faction. What? Too?
What are we going to call it? Guys, Bronson Wolf Pack or something? Do you know what I mean? Guys, it's absolute nonsense.
I know this. These sheets, Meltzer and them, they get told wrong purposefully. And I've said that since day one of PWT, and I'm telling you that now. And it's just what it is, man. I'm telling you, all right? I know this. They get told wrong purposefully to keep fans guessing, and it's a good thing.
Yeah.
I guess for that aspect, for WWE, it's a good thing he's wrong all the time. Yeah. But they take pleasure in having this guy look like an idiot. I'm telling you.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
If you can't tell by now.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what told me so much was, remember Montreal last year and the whole thing with Ariel Helwani? Yeah. And Ariel was chewing out Tony and calling him the snowman and all of that. Yeah. And how delighted everybody backstage was at WWE. They definitely take great pleasure in all of that, for sure. Right. One thing I wanted to ask you, Phil, this might have been talked about before, but where do you think this whole Roman thing's going? Because the one thing that I really, really am fascinated by is this whole thing of everybody else seems to have come to Roman's aid. And to me, it's still not entirely sure that Roman's even changed one bit.
Well, what I love about it is that Roman's not, he's still himself. He was like, no yeet. When they're like, we need to bring Jay in, he's like, no yeet. And then when he leaves the ring, he's not slapping up babies and kissing kids or whatever. Or kissing babies, slapping up kids. He's not playing the white meat baby face. He's not gone full baby face. In fact, he's eyeing up Punk. He's eyeing up Cody. He even said, this ain't finished, bro. We're still throwing down. He said it to Cody. He's like, we ain't finished.
Yeah.
I love it. He's just that tweener, but it's a tweener that they spent so much time telling the story that it makes sense. He's a tweener. Have you ever watched Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
Not a huge amount, but I'm aware of it.
Okay, so there was what was his name?
Spike, yeah.
Okay, so that he was a bad guy, but he was so over
likable.
That he was he's a Deadpool. He's an anti-hero. I don't even like that term actually. But he's a middle guy, a tweener. And you can get away with that with certain people. Roman, it makes sense. And he's full on babyface right now. If he does turn cool, I don't know. I think we get a Cody heel turn before we get a Roman one.
Mate, I really want. I want both.
I think we get Cody full on heel, and then we get Roman full mega babyface.
I want Cody going full, not even Homelander. I want him to go full Patrick Bateman, American Psycho.
Oh, yes. No, that's good, dude. And Christian Bale, like that's a good pull right there. That's a really good pull. That you
absolutely, yeah. But the thing with Roman for me is that, again, like his whole MO, his whole purpose, his whole storytelling purpose still hasn't changed. So one thing that I've been thinking about is, obviously, you think about how the Bloodline came to be in the first place. He basically subjugated Jay, and he completely made him and Jimmy bend the knee to him to make himself the tribal chief.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is, but I can see a situation where it's like you end up with like and I don't know where this goes long term, but this whole thing of like, he's going to make Solo submit him, and he's going to get the Ula Fowler back. Ooh. And then what's going to happen? It's like, well, you're going to fall in line. And then you end up with an even bigger Bloodline, which might take it a little bit into slightly absurd NWO territory because there's just too many people.
They have direction, though.
But they have direction, and it's like, all of a sudden, it's just like, oh my God, he never changed at all. And then the next stage of the story becomes the fallout of, Sammy and Jay. You might lose a couple of members who can't stomach it, but then it's like Seth and a few others going, I told you so. The guy hadn't changed. We all changed around him, and he just used you and manipulated you the way he used and manipulated everybody else for 4 years.
Fire fantasy mark in there for real though, right? And that's the thing with this whole Bloodline thing. They have so many options because, bro, Lance Anoa'i is in NXT. Zilla is WWID guy. They didn't announce it, but he's WWID before there was a WWID. He was working with Booker in Reality of Wrestling. They have their eye on him. He knows. He's tweeted it out. He's going to WWE. And then Journey Fatu, I guess they're eyeing up and using. All I'm saying, we have a whole next-gen Bloodline that could get into the fold. And I know some people might go, oh, come on now, Phil. That's not very fair to try and, compare the Bloodline to the NWO. That's not very fair, Paul Nolan, to try and say that the NWO and the Bloodline are the same. You're right, but they have direction, and that's the key thing. They know what they're doing. They're telling a story. I have faith that WWE, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, whoever that's involved, Bobby Roode is getting big praise for doing backstage. Everyone involved, I think they will make the best thing possible, regardless of how big this Bloodline or how little it gets, etc. I trust them fully. This isn't like the NWO because Triple H has in his mind, we can't NWO this, but we can keep playing with it because it's working.
And if it's done badly, then it'll descend into, Bloodline red and black, Bloodline white and whatever. Do you know what I mean? So it does need careful booking, but then when you've got somebody like Heyman, who I think is still just exactly, yeah. But you've got someone like Heyman who's like, creatively probably steering the ship of the whole thing, and it has been since minute one. You do hope they stick the landing and end up with one of probably the greatest wrestling storyline of all time, really.
Yeah, so guys, that was Dave Meltzer, a super duper with Paul Nolan. Dave Meltzer, dumb moment of the week. Here's the OG flute. Oh no, it's the drum roll, sorry. And here's the new one we're sending to Paul Nolan to remix and do some with. Right?